Sometimes called compassionate use, expanded access is a way for patients to get access to an investigational medical product. Investigational medical products are drugs, biologics, or medical devices that are still being tested to see whether they're safe and effective. This means that FDA has not concluded that these products are safe for their intended use. In addition, products may or may not be effective in the treatment of the disease or condition. Using an investigational medical product may cause serious side effects that are not expected.
Cooper's been diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 1, which is a genetic condition that causes tumors to grow on nerves throughout the body. And there's also other manifestations of NF, such as tibial bowing and learning issues. So Cooper's primary issue is the tumors in his body. Because there are no current approved treatments, Cooper's geneticists let us know that there is a possibility of access to experimental medication through the FDA's Expanded Access Program.
I have a tumor on my neck, and it's growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And the more it grows, if it grew anymore, I would have less air.
Patients are encouraged to participate in clinical trials to help learn whether investigational medical products are safe and effective. However, sometimes it's not possible for a patient to be a part of a clinical trial. For example, when there are no available current clinical trials, when a patient may not fit the selection criteria for the clinical trial, or when a patient lives too far from a clinical trial location. Patients or caregivers who have questions about participating in a clinical trial should first contact the person who is running the clinical trial, also known as the clinical investigator. FDA's Expanded Access Program might be an option for a patient to try an investigational medical product. A patient may fit the criteria for FDA's Expanded Access Program if the patient has a serious or immediately life-threatening disease or condition, if there's no satisfactory or comparable alternative therapy to diagnose, monitor, or treat the disease or condition, if participating in a clinical trial is not possible, if the possible benefit to the patient is reasonable compared to the possible risk of treatment, and if providing the patient with the investigational medical product under expanded access will not slow down or hold up the clinical trial process for the product.
I would suggest that you do your research, try to learn more than you think you should need to know, be an advocate, really find both medical professionals that you can partner with that are willing to go through the process to gain access to the medication you need for yourself or your child, and also connect with other patients, maybe who've been through the process.
I think something that parents have to know, especially parents of children who have a rare disease or a rare illness, is that a lot of times you feel like you know more than the medical providers, and sometimes that's the case. But I think it's important to remember, especially if you've done your research, to remember that nobody knows your child better than you do. And so the medical providers are the experts on the condition, but they don't really know your child in the same way. And so it's really good to partner with them so that those two bodies of knowledge can come together.
Our doctors have to work really hard to do that, so try to be helpful to them and try to give them extra kindness.
There are 5 steps in the process for requesting an investigational medical product under expanded access. First, you should talk to a licensed physician before deciding if an investigational medical product is right for you. A licensed physician can review your medical history and help you consider all possible risks and benefits. Second, ask your licensed physician to contact the medical product company to request the investigational medical product through expanded access. The medical product company decides whether they are able to provide the investigational medical product for treatment under expanded access. A medical product company is not required to offer their product under expanded access, and there may be reasons a company is unable to supply it. For example, a limited supply needed for clinical trials. Medical product companies are required by law to publicly post their general expanded access policies once they reach a certain stage of development. Third, an institutional review board, also called an IRB, reviews the expanded access treatment plan and informed consent document. The IRB makes sure that the patient will be able to understand the investigational medical product for the planned treatment as well as possible risks and benefits. An IRB is an independent third-party group who protects the rights and welfare of the person involved in scientific research. Fourth, have your licensed physician visit FDA's Expanded Access Information for Physicians webpage. The physician will need to complete an expanded access request form on your behalf and submit it to FDA. FDA reviews and determines if the expanded access request may proceed. Historically, FDA has allowed the majority of expanded access requests to proceed. And fifth, once your expanded access request is determined safe to proceed by the licensed physician, the medical product company, the IRB, and the FDA, you can begin treatment. Read the informed consent carefully. Ask your licensed physician questions you may have about the treatment, and make sure that you understand the potential risks associated with the investigational medical product. You may stop your participation in the Expanded Access Program at any time, even after signing the informed consent. The costs of your treatment with the investigational medical product might not be covered by third-party payers, such as private insurance or Medicare. You may be expected to pay out of pocket for some or all of your treatment with the investigational medical product. It's important to note that even if you meet the criteria for expanded access, the licensed physician, the medical product company, the IRB, and the FDA must all agree that treatment with the investigational medical product under the Expanded Access Program is appropriate. FDA is committed to increasing awareness about the expanded access process and the procedures for getting access to investigational medical products. If you have any questions about FDA's Expanded Access Program, please contact FDA's Patient Affairs staff at patientaffairs@fda.gov.